Where do you see all of this going with people recreating their voices? Will everybody have a clone in 2 or 3 years? Like, because we could have thought about, 11 Labs when I heard about it like 2 or 3 years ago, right? I couldn't think about a salesperson using my voice. Now we have it. What do you think is going to happen in 2 years? What is this new use case that this all is going to unlock?
Interesting question. Of course, we are seeing like kind of entirely new ways of interacting with voices. So I do think, yes, you will have your digital AI voice. And I think even step further, you will have your own digital voice agent that does things for you that you want to make sure is authenticated. People know you operate. So, like we spoke about the example of how people can call in, you can configure a voice agent. But I think the other side will be also true. I will have my voice agent that
Calling
maybe
the bank? Because they use voice authentication, right? It's going to
I think that's
change.
not the best mechanism for the future
Anymore, yeah.
not anymore.
Yeah.
But like say you want to book in a restaurant or follow up about an appointment in a healthcare, and you want to make sure that they know your most recent details or that it's confirmed. I think you will want an authenticated version of voice agent. I'm saying the authenticated because, like you say, most of the verification, if they don't, will fail. And you want to know that it's a permissioned voice. So you will need to start embedding watermarks and metadata around that. But I think to kind of go back to your question of like where it all evolves, I think there will be like an interesting pattern where, and I think it will happen on both sides, as a user, but also as a business, you will be able to serve so many different voices to your customers, or you as a customer can decide what voice speaks to you. So to speak for specific examples, we are working with a company in Korea and Japan, a multinational company there, which has a very different age groups calling in. Set of older patients and then much younger set of people. And they want to serve, depending on the data, the number that is calling in, serve different voice to that group, both in terms of how it speaks, how it sounds, but also the style in which it speaks. Of course, it's a generalization, but roughly they wanted that if an older person is calling in, the voice speaks much slower, much calmer, less emotionality. If it's a younger person, much quicker, a lot of higher amplitude of emotions. And I think this same pattern will start happening across everything, where if you are calling in a specific region, you might have an accent of that region. If you are calling a restaurant that's maybe representing a specific cuisine, you get a voice of that cuisine speaking with you. And maybe there are like variations of all those different types. Which can work. And then separately, as a person calling in to any of those services, you could pre-select that too. So if you are calling a bank and you enjoy speaking always with the voice of this specific style, then you can select it, and that voice will be the voice of your preference. We've seen this happen in a company also in Asia, where they created effectively a travel agent, or like a Google Maps competitive product, where you can select a voice that narrates your direction. And one of the voices they selected became like viral, and everybody wants to use it now in the travel directions, because it just made for such a better experience.
That's so
cool. If I extrapolate in the future, I think there will be a lot more both personalization, but also selection that you can choose into. I think 100% true. You will have your own authenticated voice that you can use for your voice agent, for your content.
That has all the information about you,
That has all the
right?
information that you can
Interesting. That's
use.
very interesting. I like that part. Like having my voice call and be authorized to use my data. How do you talk about impersonation with voice? Like if my voice is authorized to use my credit card to buy anything, and then somebody just uses the resemblance of it, will there be any metadata that could be detected by other systems, and what would it look like?
Yeah, it's so I think first of all, I think it's going to happen. Like I think the assumption we should be going with is that where you will have good actors, good technology trying to avoid it, but then there will be also more permissive and technology and bad actors trying to abuse it with any technology shift. And already now there is a lot of open source technology, other commercial technology, which doesn't have the same safeguards, that could clone your voice and create a mimicking, and that sounds like you. So I think any system that we think about devising in the future kind of needs to assume that you can create a clone of a voice and make it a perfect replica. Now, of course, if you're like as I think about ElevenLabs, we can and we do add safeguards as you create a voice, so you cannot do that. Or if you do, we detect it and moderate and can flag it internally if we are not sure. So whether it's being able to trace everything back to the account or moderate what text was used, whether it was trying to do a scam. But to core of your question, like as you think about the future, the ideal system, and it would require cooperation from a number of parties, would have 3 different layers. And then the first layer is, instead of trying to check for AI, you actually check for human. That's easy for me to say. Of course, there's like, how do you check for humanness? But a simpler step or original step could be that you, on the devices that you use, so on my telephone or on my laptop, I am encoding that this is my phone, my laptop. When I'm calling from it, it's being decoded on the other side. They know that this is the device I use, so most likely this is me. That's the first layer. Second layer is actually what we spoke about earlier, where, and that's possible, you watermark authenticated AI. So if I'm using a specific tooling, the tools that can add this watermark are known, and I watermark that within the content. It's not super straightforward, especially in audio, because if you add a watermark in content, it can affect the quality of the content itself, but it's roughly good. And that's the second layer. So you check for authenticated AI. And then the third layer is, by default, is AI, and you assume it's AI. So if it didn't pass the first or second layer, and you see content that hasn't been authenticated or proved for being a human, it's AI by default, and you don't trust it. And then you can add more mechanisms on top of that third layer, where you like try to explicitly check or add additional signal of like, this is real. But that would be a mindset shift, where today, if you look for content, you're like, oh, maybe this is AI. It should be the opposite, where it's like, oh no, this is definitely AI. Is it maybe human, or is it maybe AI that was created with creator's permission? And then you have those cases in between that will be interesting as you, of course, create the content. You mentioned that sometimes if you need to re-record, you might create an AI voice with, of course, with your permission. But then do you do that across the clip? And maybe you do that, I don't know, 1% or 5% of the content is AI voice. Maybe in the future it will be 30 or 50%. And at what stage would you say this is like your AI delivery or human delivery?
You're a founder in AI. How do you sleep at night when everything is moving so fast? What are your main fears? What keeps you up at night?
I think there are 2 parts to it. I think the first part that I need to mention is that it's such an incredible opportunity with the shift. Like, it's the biggest shift, or maybe bigger shift than the internet. And we are at ElevenLabs so happy and lucky to be part of that shift and be leading on the voice frontier. So I think that the team and all of us are feeling that we have a unique opportunity that never happens in your life, that you can create a technology, define how it will be used, and hopefully create value across whether it's voice agents and how a voice interface will look in the future, whether it's making content global, whether it's making content available in audio. But of course, with all of that, as you think about being at the frontier, it like also makes us carry some of the responsibility for how we define that. So a lot of our parts will stem from that. I think the first one is, we still think there's innovations on the research level that you can bring into the space, at least 1 or 2 big ones in audio. And we've been able to do it so far in text-to-speech, speech-to-text, recently in music, but we still want to continue leading and continue being better than some of the biggest labs in the world, whether it's some of the new AI companies or all in humans. So we think we have that opportunity, and that is motivating, but of course definitely causes less sleep at night. The team is super hardworking too, which makes for shorter nights. Then from the risks perspective, we spoke about some of those. We do feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that we avoid some of those risks. So we are trying to invest a lot of time in developing safeguards around that. Then, of course, the third one, with a lot of the technology, how the economy or how the jobs in that economy will change. And we would like to do it in a way which brings a lot of the people in that economy together with the change, rather than it's change that will just affect it and disrupt it, but how can some of the people that want to be part of it be part of that disruption too? That's the voice ecosystem that we built is part of that reason. But yeah, of course, I think we need to keep hiring amazing people, keep pushing ahead as well. so much is happening, I still think it's very early. I may be biased and self-serving here, but it's still very early.
Are you enjoying this clip? On my main channel, Silicon Valley Girl, I share how to 10x your productivity with AI, launch your own AI business, and use tech as your unfair advantage. This is your golden age to build. And some people say we only have a couple of years to build. I don't know about that, but whether you want to become irreplaceable at work or level up as a solo creator, I am here for you. Subscribe now to not only watch the highlights, but to get the full playbook.